Next stop, Chicago Junction.
Ad lib. We know how to do that. Good evening. This was your announcer. We are in the midst
Well,
of...
good evening for another wonderful episode of Chicago Junction. Trains pulling out of the station at this time. And with the small panel we have here.
And it's small.
And yeah, we're small, but we'll think of something. But yeah, well, wonderful. Welcome to our wonderful world of trains. My name is Brian Ballou. I'm your announcer and probably ringmaster this evening. So,
He's going to get the whip out.
here's our electrical engineer, John DeVita.
Well, thank you very much, Brian. And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another broadcast of Chicago Junction from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network on Wednesday, August the 9th, the year 2023. Today, the panel will be talking about railroads and model railroads. And now, to start today's broadcast, here's our announcer, Mr. Brian.
Thank you, John. We are, as you know, my name is Brian Ballou. I'm your announcer. I'm going to probably be the ringmaster, and then I'll sweep up all the garbage when we're done. And to my left.
Hey, it's Doug Kaniak here. I'm with Wright College as a professor and a rail fan, long time, N-scaler, and an officer in the Railroad and Short Lines Club of Chicago.
Hi, I'm Ron. I'm the Garden Railroader, and I'm still working on my railroad. And I'm the clown.
Oh, you went to Princeton.
Well, if he's the ringmaster and that, you got to have a clown.
There you go. Okay, we can work that. But yes, I do have a lot of interest in railroading, from reading the history of it, working on the railroad, being retired conductor, locomotive engineer, playing with my Lionel, and in fact, I got a brand new train set.
Do tell.
Well,
How did you do that?
well, I didn't have to pay for it.
Well,
That's
good
nice.
reason.
That's a good deal.
Except for, backbreaking work.
Okay.
All right. We're over Madison's house,
Okay.
and myself, Ron Althart, and several of the other club members, we were tearing apart the layout in the backyard
All right.
that Madison had. She's waited 2 years to tear it up, and so we were getting through. And as you know, at some of the meetings, she's been bringing stuff in. People have been buying, or she was just giving it to them.
Right.
And so we were down in the basement pulling stuff out, and she says, "Anybody want a small train set?" Madison's first train that he bought when he was given to him as a kid in England before his family immigrated to the U.S. I said, "Well, yeah, I'll take it. Nice Hornby set." And then I got it, and it's neat. It's a 00, which was 072, or one and one 72.
Double was 1 and
72.
yeah,
And
it's a little larger than HO,
yeah, they were a little larger,
but not S scale. It's in between.
That is correct. It's still smaller than TT. Anyway, so I got this. I mean, it's nice. He has beautiful. The locomotives are metal, like Mantua,
Cool.
and they were made by Hornby, But Hornby was also situated with another manufacturer, Meccano. Now, Meccano was England's version of Gilbert
Yes.
for the erector sets.
Yep. They still are.
Yep. Yes, there still are. And it was in a suitcase that had his father's name on it, and it had suitcase number 5. And this was the suitcase they used coming across the Atlantic to the States. And then I'm looking at the track, and the train is AC. It is 3-rail track.
Cool.
Now I'm sitting to test he didn't have a regular transformer, so I pulled out one of the real small early Lionels. Motors worked great. I got one was a Pacific Duchess class, painted maroon with a black smoke box, Pacific, and then an 044 tank engine for freight. Separate. There are some signals with it. Got electric switches, enough to make at least 2 loops. And she made me promise, as soon as I got it up and I made a layout running, she wanted pictures of it. And I said, okay.
No problem. So which door are you using, the front door or the back door?
I walked right in the back door carrying it in, and my wife goes, "Where did you get that?" And then I showed it to her.
And you explained the whole story, and she had nothing else to say.
I don't know if you ever saw that meme on Facebook. Yeah, it's from the Quilters, but it's got the guy with the engineer's hat. He's a model railroader, and the wife. And she goes, "I don't understand. The car keeps turning into the Michaels."
No matter where I go. But it's really it's unique. And
Sounds like a very neat
I should
train.
have bought it in for you guys to see.
At least the engine.
Yeah. Bring it in next month.
Yeah, we'll do show and tell next month.
There you go.
That's neat. That's
Something. That is something.
I'm just surprised that with her kids or grandkids that they didn't.
Yeah, nope, they didn't want it.
That's something that's part of history that.
That's one of the reasons why I took it, to save it.
Thank you.
And inside the suitcase, you talk about a wealth of different stuff. They had 4 boxes of Dinky toys.
Oh, man.
They are sized for basically O gauge. One was a dump truck, nice metal dump truck. Yeah. Then a crane, and 2, not 1, but 2 auto carriers. And one did have some cars in it.
Wow.
Boy, it sounds you struck gold on that deal.
And these are all from the early 50s. Early 50s or late 40s.
Yeah, well, at least in England, dinkies are collectible. Not so much around here, but...
Yeah, but
I bet you somebody
but they're the original boxes.
Yeah, but I mean, I bet you somebody in England, if they saw that, they would really...
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the value is of that, that style.
Yeah.
Or that company,
Model railroading out in the UK is much more intense than it is around here.
Yes, it is. In
So
fact, they don't care what scale you have. They'll put an outdoor layout in your backyard, and they have them in HO.
I always thought that would be neat. I'm working on N-scale.
I believe they had a couple.
It's one of those feeder
N-scale
lines that are
ones.
tough.
No, they had a couple of them N-scale ones in outdoors.
Well, if you could find it, there's a video. They did this in England. They laid 28 miles of HO track to run a train. Did you see that? They had a battery
Yes,
every so...
they they had the battery to do it, and to lay it on the original roadbed is what they did.
There's about 28 miles.
There was one. Then there was
It was
a
hilarious.
There was a factory in the middle of the tracks, where it was laid, and they took it. They got permission. They took it, ran the track upstairs, through the hall, and then downstairs again.
It's a funny video to watch. You know?
Oh, it is.
You know,
I remember seeing the show.
yeah, because they show you the preparation. They had people stationed all the way down. They had batteries like every quarter mile and to give power to it. And
James May. James May
So-
was the guy's name, because he was the big toy
yeah,
buff.
because he did all kinds of stuff with toys.
And he also did with, well, what was the name of that auto show?
I think I know which one you mean. I think I know which one you mean. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't think of the name either. Only watched it a couple of Gearheads or something like that.
Well, yeah, well, they were like gearheads, but they were like one of them. James May was one.
Where they get in the car and criticize the hell out of it.
Well, the one guy really criticized it, and he destroyed a lot of cars. Like the one time.
Yeah, I know the show you're talking about.
Yeah. I'll call you at 2 in the morning when it comes. But yeah, that's fantastic.
That is cool. Well, the sad news, Hobbyland's closing at the end of the month.
Who was
Hobbyland. Chicago Hobbyland.
really
Yeah.
Chicago.
Chicago Hobbyland.
on Northwest
Yeah.
Highway?
Northwest Highway.
Yes.
Yeah,
They're-
Northwood.
I put the phones in that.
The September 16th is the last day.
Yeah, they're down to
place.
40% off now.
God.
Yeah.
I'll be there next weekend.
Yeah.
I already bought a couple of engines, so I'm going to be back. Wife goes, go ahead and buy them. Okay.
There's three brothers.
Yeah.
One of them owned Chicagoland Hobby. The other one owned a where you put the sound systems in your car.
Yeah. Auto parts.
Yeah, and then the other one is Dave. Bolshek is their last name. And I did telephone work for all three of those guys, all up on Northwest Highway. Because Dave is now out in the Shore Park
Yeah.
off of.
Well, yeah, he's got an office that he's going to let his brother Greg use.
Oh, for God's sakes.
Well, no, because they're still going to be receiving things to the end of the year.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I'm surprised to hear that.
Well, he announced it 2 months ago because he couldn't find anybody to buy the place. It was up for sale for
he
the
almost
last year.
announced it a year ago.
Yeah, well, he put it up for sale a year ago, no takers. So he decided, that's it. I'm retiring. Goodbye. That's it.
Yeah. And it was a beautiful shop, too.
Oh, yeah.
The owner of the railroad was Greg, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was Dave, is the got the body shop, and then I forget what the other brother's name was. But I did phone work for all three of those gentlemen.
So, anyway, what else we got? You want to go or you want me to go?
You go.
All right.
Since you got all the information.
Well, he's got some information.
All right, well, I'm going to start out with one that, when I first read this, I go, wow, good news. But then as I got deeper into it, I started laughing. You'll
It
understand
was the same
why.
old news, just written differently.
Yeah, it says Illinois Amtrak seek federal funds for Union Station. Regional rail upgrades.
I read that.
Yeah, you know where it's going.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh joined with federal, local, and business leaders to call for federal funding for Chicago Hub Improvement Program, or CHIP, a series of projects that would invest nearly $1 billion in regional rail infrastructure and upgrade Union Station. The CHIP program aims to secure $800 million grant from the Federal Railroad Administration, and made possible by Federal Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. If secured, the federal dollars would help advance regional improvements, resulting in better performance for travelers in the Midwest and across the country. As a side note, I have another article that tears into Illinois' high-speed rail. Anyway, you'll laugh at that one too. As Amtrak's top priority, the projects would expand capacity, eliminate bottlenecks, and improve air quality, accessibility, reliability, and customer experience for more than 30 million passengers annually. The grant Applicants with Amtrak include Illinois Department of Transportation, Chicago Department of Transportation, Cook County Metro, Chicago Metropolitan Planning Agency, and the Michigan Department of Transportation, which is contributing a combined $218 million towards the improvement. The effort is supported by $50 million from the governor's Rebuild Illinois Capital Program, which addresses all modes of transportation. The proposal would not only make much-needed improvements to Union Station and existing rail lines throughout Illinois and into Michigan, it would unlock a vast system of new and expanded rail passenger services throughout the Midwest, with Chicago Union Station serving as the hub. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't there like Indiana between Chicago and Michigan? Okay. The Union Station projects consist of improving platforms, upgrading the concourse, and reactivating tracks for passenger use that were first built for the old post office, increasing capacity for both Amtrak and Metro. The station's ventilation system will be upgraded. Last year at the Railroad and Short Lines Club of Chicago, a guy from, I think it was Amtrak, came in and showed us their plans for utilizing those old platforms and what they plan to do. It was an interesting talk, and he said, well, it's going to take about 10 years. In addition, the grant would help fund new connection between Union Station and St. Charles Airline Bridge over the south branch of the river near 18th Street. Combined with additional track east of the bridge, and connections will save up to 15 minutes on the Saluki and the City of New Orleans trains. Another program element calls for restoring 16 miles of second track Amtrak owns in southwest Michigan to eliminate the bottleneck and help reduce by 30 minutes the trip between Chicago and Detroit. Yeah, like who's going to go there? In the past 15 years, ridership in Illinois has doubled with the introduction of the two 110-mile-per-hour Amtrak trains between Chicago and St. Louis. The time is now to seize the opportunity to maximize Chicago's role as the passenger hub of the nation and to position both the city and the state to remain the economic engine for the Midwest, said Amtrak Board Chairman Tony Corsia. Like I said, I started reading this and I started laughing. Anyway, on to other stuff. Sheep join BART's effort to reduce wildfire risk.
We did that before.
Bay Area Rapid Transit has replaced goats with sheep. See, we had the goat story last time. Now it's sheep. As part of the San Francisco-based transit agency vegetation management program. The sheep will eat grazing grasses and short roughage, while goats ate taller wooded plants over the past few years, said BART officials. The animals used in the program, designed to reduce vegetation to mitigate wildfire hazards, are rotated every few years. BART's program started with 100 goats. This year it will turn to 500 sheep, which started grazing near San Jose Station and will work their way up the U-shaped path until they reach Pittsburgh Bay Point Station sometime in the next few months. The sheep are just as efficient as goats when it comes to grazing dry, fire-prone vegetation, which probably cuts the cost of fire mitigation in half, says BART. Before the animals were introduced to vegetation management program 6 years ago, BART crews used heavy machinery and equipment to remove dry grasses, a process that could disrupt nearby neighborhoods. Grazing animals can reach areas that humans can't easily access and emit far less pollution than a machine.
So who's watching the sheep?
Who's awake watching them?
Well, who's awake? But I'm just saying, who's keeping them in?
And there's a related story which I did not print off, but they have some company came out with a camera monitored by AI that can go down the tracks looking for stuff on the peripheral off the right on the right of way, but not on the tracks that should be removed. It was like a garbage collection camera system. But it was like AI would identify, well, that's railroad property. Quick, get it. Oh, no, that's garbage. Dispose of it. Anyway. Now, here's one that caught my eye. And actually, there was a longer story, and I just took the shorter one. Genesis Electronics Group, a subsidiary of GLID, announced a new agreement with Sensor Technologies to develop the first NFC-enabled cargo theft locking solution called Cargo Secure, which will consist of web-based Cargo Secure software platform, mobile app, and CS1 hardware. Cargo Secure requires no cables, wires, or batteries, making it ideal for truck trailers and containers to move in and out of the field without being broken into. Now, the other story that I found, because I found this one on Railway Age, down in technology one, Railway Gazette Technology. They went deeper into this. I didn't know that until I got almost done. The idea is that you have your laptop, and through the web, through a satellite, you can open and close the container electronically. See a problem here? I give you one word: hackers. They would have a field day. Just like they're having a field day with the cars right now, because all the cars are unprotected computer systems. So I could put a virus in your car and take control of your car with my laptop.
Just what we need is more computers.
Yep. And I've been known. I mean, I have a write-up. I got this back in like 2007. 16-page write-up: how to hack a car. I still got it. I read it every so often and laugh because nothing's been done.
All they do is talk, 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 talk.
So anyway, that's that one. Here we go. Your favorite topic, or Dave's favorite part. UP to begin testing ground-based conductors. Union Pacific in August and September will test ground-based conductors to respond to problems on trains in Nebraska and Colorado, said the AP this week. I called it. I told you they're going to do it west of the Mississippi and before the Rockies. If they're going to do it, that's the place they're going to test it. The pilot project calls for testing UP's idea of one-person train crews. Now, side note, with AI-driven systems, the engineer could be gone. Anyway, the conductors will write...
You're going to see a lot more.
There's only 122,000 workers on railroads right now. And it's not like it's a big voting bloc that could sway government.
See, that's just it. Yes, it's voting. I like being up with technology. That's okay.
I didn't say it was a good thing. I just say I see it coming.
But you got to look at the tracks that they're on.
Well, that's...
Now, how would you like to have
I have a story on that, too.
Autonomous train coming into Chicago. Or Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh.
Well, I have a story on tracks, so don't worry about that. Conductors will ride trucks in response to problems on the trains used in the program. UP will continue using two-person trains elsewhere on the network until the pilot project is done. UP's Jason Pinder confirmed the project when he testified July 17th against the proposed two-person train crew rule in Kansas. UP idea for one-person crew was shelved earlier this year after the Smart TD Rail Union, which represent train conductors, opposed it during negotiations. However, the union later agreed to let UP test ground-based conductors as long as it agreed to drop negotiations over crew size. Big mistake.
They're going to lose out.
Yeah.
They're getting rid of the unions.
Yeah, the UP already won.
No matter what the unions want to say, yeah. The unions are gone.
Yeah, and so there's still union officials say they remain opposed to reducing train crews to one person. Smart TD's Ty Drago testified at Kansas hearing that it supports the proposed two-man crew requirement for safety reasons. Railroads are opposed to crew size mandates because they lack a safety justification, ignore the successful use of single-person crews in the United States and globally. Okay. I don't know how UP operates globally, but now here's a disturbing.
I'm trying to digest it.
Yeah, okay. Well, here's another one. TTX to relocate headquarters to North Carolina from Chicago. They're moving out. And if I remember right, TTX was owned by Dashishwa Industries. I know this because I interviewed over there once, and they told me all the companies they owned. Full of book. So they're relocating. I'm not going to read the whole story. They're just bailing out.
Who originally owned TTX?
Gatex?
Huh?
Wasn't it General Automation or General Transportation?
Pennsylvania Railroad.
Ah, okay.
That was the main holder.
And, of course, a story that's been on our minds now for a couple of months. Metro to provide Chicago to Rockford rail service. Now, it says here, Pittsburgh announced last week, announced partnership between Illinois Department of Transportation and Metro to restore Chicago to Rockford passenger service that was discontinued 42 years ago. The intercity passenger rail service will link Rockford, Belvedere, and surrounding communities to Chicago. Metro will use its Milwaukee District West Line and relationship with Union Pacific to extend the service beyond Elgin to reach Rockford with expected stops in Huntley and Belvedere. First problem, should stop at Union. This is a major step for Metro to journey outside the six-county area, Chicago area home, but it is something that we're prepared to do, said Metro CEO Jim Derwinski. Which, by the way, I wrote Metro a letter last month, and 2 weeks later I got a response from them.
But is the track still there, or is it all gone?
No, it's the UP line that runs out to the Belvedere. They kept the line because it served the Chrysler plant in Belvedere,
Okay.
which is now closed, by the way.
Right.
So they were looking around before UP decides to abandon that line, they were looking around for some use for it, and they said, let's get the sucker to state in Illinois to put a passenger line on it.
And then we can work Amtrak into it.
Well, Amtrak's out of this deal. This is intrastate, which means Amtrak has no say in this. They can't. And if this works out, I expect to see the other Amtrak, like Saluki and the Lunai, go private. In other words, not run by Amtrak if this works out. I think this is a ploy by the state to get away from Amtrak. Because Amtrak could have ran this service, Chicago to Rockford. And then from Rockford, you can go north into Janesville.
Right.
Well, that's interstate. So that is Amtrak. But this is intrastate, inside the state of Illinois.
Yeah.
So they could ignore Amtrak all the way around. Trains are expected to begin service in late 2027. The $275 million project to restore the service will be funded by Rebuild Illinois. Project components will include improved grade crossings, upgrade bridges, and double tracking at various locations. Stations will be built in Huntley and Belvedere. Part of the project is requiring Huntley and Belvedere to pay for and build the stations. It's not part of the project. They don't know that yet. Yeah,
The Belvedere is my niece.
yeah.
Station.
But any
Close.
of these new services, Amtrak, Metra, all these guys are requiring the communities to build the stations now, not them. Which I have another story on that too. With those improvements, travel time is expected to be slightly less than 2 hours between the two cities, with 2 round trips per day planned. Boarding locations in Chicago and Rockford, as well as fare structure and schedule, are still to be determined. Pending Metro board approval, the project's next phase includes reaching operations and maintenance agreements between IDOT, Metra, and UP. Also required are engineering studies to determine the scope of track improvements needed to support the increased speeds from existing freight operations that peak at 40 miles an hour to enable passenger speeds of 79 miles an hour between Elgin and Rockford. To reach Rockford, a connection ultimately will have to be built between Metra and UP tracks in Elgin. Not a problem there. They're right next to each other, just past up to Big Timber.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you think? I looked at that and said, that's a ploy. If this works out, I think they'll have to change the Metro law a little bit because Metro's not allowed to operate outside the six-county area except the Kenosha. That was grandfathered in. So this is outside the Metro operating area, but Metro is being contracted. This is the loophole. They're being contracted to run the service. So not sure how legally that's going to stand and which NIMBY is going to find this out and have a good time in the courts with them.
Yeah. I mean,
This is new to everybody that's taking place.
well, it's a new.
It's not new, but it's
Yeah.
all of a sudden
Yeah.
we're going to do something, and the wheels are turning, and they
Right. It's contract law. I mean, you look
Yeah.
at the thing, and the state of Illinois is contracted with Metra to run this service. State of Illinois legislature passed a law that created Metra and defined what Metra can and can't do. So there's a loophole in there somewhere that says either they're going to change the law, pass an amendment to the law, or hope nobody notices and start running the service. Of course, let's start talking about it. you
Well,
know.
it's like the problem in the East with SEPTA.
Yeah.
SEPTA doesn't really like expansion. But like when they took over running the commuter service out of Reading, and they took over running the train out of there, and also went. One of the things the Reading company did is when they bought them in to do it, they also gave them the station in downtown Philly. Oh, they built a new tunnel to take train coming in on ramp and go down under the sea and to hook up with the suburban service station.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden now the office is a convention center.
Yep. That's how it goes.
And at least they didn't tear down shed. It is the largest train shed in the world.
Cool.
And everybody's been trying to make a bigger one. Mostly England. But, but what they did, that means all of a sudden they took away the diesel trains that were coming in from Reading.
Mm-hmm.
They took that service out. All of a sudden they had no train service to Philly. And they've been trying to get it back. And Philly keeps coming up with all these excuses.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's going to have to be all electric.
The apple's not red.
Yeah.
Type excuses. That's what Japan did for the longest time. That's why apples couldn't be exported to Japan. They would, well, they're not this. We got to have 40 pages of documentation what chemicals are on it. And they kept putting all these barriers that stuff couldn't be imported.
Yeah.
I remember I remember reading the thing when I was working at the factory because we did international business, and I'm like, the guy brings in, he says, you need to have this printed on our, the automated invoices that we're sending stuff overseas. And I'm reading it, because I got to figure out how to tell my programmers to do it. And the one thing was, and the ladders have to have a distance between the steps of this, or else it will be automatically rejected. Yeah, it was the longest time. Japan wouldn't buy tanks from us. Why? The rungs and the ladder were too far apart. I remember the military guy telling me that. I looked at him and said, what? Anyway, next one. USD to test crude oil by rail shipments to new customer at Oklahoma terminal. USD Partners announced that it entered into a 3-month rail-to-truck terminal services agreement with a new third-party customer at a terminal in Stroud, Oklahoma. Served by the Stillwater Central Railroad, the terminal will be tested as a destination for waxy crude oil produced in the Uinta base in eastern Utah. If the tests are successful, a long-term terminal services agreements will be executed with the customer. Now I'm going to stop there because it's talking about how much at 80,000 barrels a day and stuff. But here's the thing. Why are they shipping by rail? Because they are not allowed to build a pipeline. So this is a sneaky way to get the oil moved from any place to any place now without building a pipeline. Good for the railroads, but again, you start thinking about what happens when there's a derailment.
But see, that's just it.
Yeah, but that's you're saying sneaky, but I don't know. They're just they're doing the right thing by moving the oil without building a pipeline.
Yeah, they're doing it right out in the open, but that's one way to get around. Okay, you can't build a pipeline, we'll use rail. Then you know what's going to happen after the first derailment. Oh, well, yeah, build a pipeline to move it. Why are they going to do it on the rail? Blah, blah, blah. That's why I called it, it's a no-win situation, of course.
Well, they just got to keep working on that. There's no
skip that
derailment.
I'll skip
Hopefully.
that story. All right, another one. Gonna like this one. Chinese freight rail coupler imports harm U.S. rail industry. The U.S. International Trade Commission recently determined that the sale of Chinese imported freight rail couplers is harming the U.S. rail industry. The imports are sold in the U.S. at less than their value and subsidized by the Chinese government. What a surprise, according to the U.S. Department of Commerce. As a result, the DOC has issued an anti-dumping and countervailing duty orders on freight rail couplers imported from China. Previously imported couplers will not be subject to the retroactive anti-dumping. Know all about that stuff. The work at Pile National, you know who Pile National is, okay? They had the big coupler that go into the diesel, so you could hook 3-4 diesels together. Those great big connectors. Well, they were made of metal, surrounded by rubber, but they're basically metal. Metal containers, machine, company did the whole works. I was in IT, so I got to know all this stuff. I had to go down there all the time. Well, they start company started losing sales. When they looked into it, the railroads were buying fiberglass ones from Litton Industries. Litton Industries was having the outside shell, which is should be metal. Now it's fiberglass being made in Italy, rest of it being assembled in Mexico. And it was a quarter the price that Pile National was charging. So, of course, the railroads buy it. And after 6 months, when the thing falls off the locomotive, the railroads, how come it's falling apart? Well, yeah, exactly. And that's what's happening here. The only reason those couplers were selling is because, okay, buy it in the U.S. or you could buy it for a quarter of the price from China. Same thing happened with the face masks during COVID. Everybody was buying their face masks, the plastic shield, penny each from China. Guy in Texas was making them for 10 cents each. Because that's as low as he can go.
Nobody was supporting him.
Yeah, that was the problem. All right, Honolulu launches Skyline finally. It's finally, first phase is now in operations. All 11 miles of it, 9 stations.
They've been planning that since 76.
Yes, the overall fleet right now consists of 20 4-car trains, each equipped with the capacity to hold up to 800 passengers. So that's that one. I'll skip the Omnitrack. That's just something like... Oh, here's the station one. Carbondale to break ground on new Amtrak multimodal station. The city of Carbondale, which hosts groundbreaking ceremony for Southern Illinois multimodal station. The city is using $18 million in grant funding from the U.S. Department of Transportation to leverage development program to demolish the existing Amtrak station, design and built a multimodal station, city officials said. The project will be supported by $2.8 million from the IDOT and as well as $5 million from the city. In February, Faber McGee Construction was hired as project contractor according to the project website. To be located in downtown Carbondale, the new facility will be served by Amtrak, Greyhound Bus, Saluki Express, and other transportation services. Amtrak's Lindney and Saluki routes currently serve Carbondale. The groundbreaking ceremonies will take place in the north parking lot of the current Amtrak station. Here's some good news. South Shore set to resume service to east of Gary in 2024. Yay. Finally. Have you been down there? Been down there a couple of times. It looks like they haven't done anything, but they're getting there. And for the past 2 years, the South Shore Commuter Line, formerly known as the Northern Indiana Commuter Transportation District, or NICT, has been working on double-tracking its line between Michigan City and Gary. The Chicago Tribune reported that the South Shore president, Michael Norland, reported to NICT board that the double track should be ready in November and service should start in May of 2024. The double track work has been necessitated substituting buses for trains since the construction began on 2022 on the 26-mile line. NICT also received a report that the West Lake project, a new rail line that will run 9 miles between Dyer and Hammond, is about 35% complete. This line will feature 4 stations. Service is set to begin sometime after May of 2025. Nolan said he believes the deadline can be met, but cautiously optimistic. So that's some good news. That's almost done, that project. Here's one you'll like, Brian. Roanoke storied NNW locomotive shop seeing new use. Genesis Rail Service 2 moves in. Norfolk Southern, Norfolk Western locomotive shops in Roanoke, Virginia, originally known as Roanoke Machine Works, was the city's largest employer, manufactured some of the best, most advanced steam locomotives to ride the rails, building and service steam locomotives from 1884 to 1953. The most famous, nearly 500 locomotives it built were the Class Y, designed to haul heavy coal trains in the mountains of Virginia and West Virginia. The Class A, which was used for both high-speed freight and passenger service, and beautiful Class J, designed to pull fast passengers. In 2022, Genesis Rail Service, a company that performs heavy rail infrastructure work, cleanup of derailments, and does track work, leased part of the former East End shops and has consolidated its facilities there, moving from Bluefield, West Virginia. Genesis Rail was actually actually purchased by another company in 2021, is now called Genesis Rail Services 2. According to Roanoke Times, we leased what we thought we would grow into a 5-year span. Hopefully we'll write another chapter for this facility. Certainly better than it falling to the ground, referencing the 260,000 square feet that it has leased in the shops. The shops have been through something like this before when Freight Car America leased the space to build rail cars in 2005. Freight Car America operated there until 2019, along with a few Norfolk Southern employees engaged in engine servicing and repair. Freight Car announced in 2029 it would close the facility at Roanoke, ultimately moving the jobs to Mexico a short time later. Once this happened, NS said it would completely close the shops, as it only had 85 employees there and would shift Roanoke work to larger shops in Altoona, PA. While Genesis may have a chance to expand and fully utilize this facility, we'd like to take a look at and they showed some pictures of the locomotives in the article. So there's some good news for you. Shops are not going to go away. Now here's my track story. Sinkhole causes CSX train derail. White Marsh Township, Pennsylvania. A CSX train derailed on the Norfolk Southern line due to a sinkhole opening. The sinkhole beneath Norfolk Southern line opened and caused a CSX-operated train to derail, according to NBC Philadelphia. Norfolk Southern says it hopes to get this track line open within the next few days. In a press release, CSX said one of its trains derailed around 4 a.m. on July 17th due to weather-related incident. Train was carrying 40 cars, 16 of them derailed near the intersection of Joshua and Flowertown Road in White Marsh Township. So it says here one car containing plastic pellets did break open. Nearby residents were forced to evacuate, but there was no injuries. Oh, look, there's a hole. You think we can make it over? Yeah, crank it up faster. Anyway. Now here's one that's going to start a new trend. I call this one the Super NIMBY story. Families to relocate after living by Union Pacific Rail Yard. Houston, Texas. After cancer clusters were found in Houston neighborhoods nearby a Union Pacific Rail Yard, the city plans to spend millions on relocation. According to My Northwest, the city of Houston will spend millions of dollars to relocate residents from areas surrounding a rail yard polluted with cancer by a cancer-linked wood preservative that has been blamed for the increase in cancer cases. From 2019 to 2021, health officials discovered multiple cancer clusters in Houston's historically black Fifth Ward and Kashmir Gardens neighborhood. They also found higher rates of respiratory cancers as well as childhood cancers, including acute lymphoblastic leukemia. A nearby Union Pacific Rail Yard has been blamed for the cancer cluster due to the presence of creosote. Health officials tested the soil and found dioxin, a highly toxic chemical compound associated with cancer and other health risks. Used for 8 decades until 1980, creosote has been associated with an increased risk of cancer. The mayor of Houston has been in communications with the UP and indicated it wants to wait until additional testing is complete. Testing is required to accurately determine the true extent and source of contamination in the neighborhood. While EPA-ordered testing is slated this fall, results should be released by December. Mayor Sylvester Turner urged UP to participate in the process due to a moral obligation. UP reiterated its efforts to clean up and how the company has made measurable progress since it acquired the rail yard in the 1997 merger. Those who reside in the neighborhoods near the rail yard said their concerns have been ignored by the railroad company and by local officials. To relocate residents from the 100 properties could cost up to $26 million, and the city is looking for funding from state, local, and federal sources. No specific dates or deadlines have been given for the relocation. Or, stated another way, the NIMBYs just got another thing in their book. Oh, look, I live next to a railroad track. There's creosote. I got to get out of here before the dioxin kills me. Here's the AI story. Railergy, Railergy, has selected Mountain View based company AEVA to supply a 4D LiDAR technology for its automatic train operation system used in switching mainline and last mile application at ports, freight railroads, and mines. Says here the 4D LiDAR technology can simultaneously detect precise range and velocity of small obstacles on and around railroad tracks that could prevent safe operation of autonomous locomotives. AV reported on August 7th that its instant velocity data enables the real-time segmentation of moving and non-moving objects. Velocity data also powers AV's ultra-resolution perception capabilities. Basically, it's AI running a train using LiDAR. LIDAR radar. This story, I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's 2 pages long, but the crux of the story is crew-size edicts threaten small railroads. And it's basically the NTSB said there's insufficient data to demonstrate that accidents are avoided by having a second qualified person in the locomotive cab. The Federal Railroad Administration said it lacked reliable or conclusive statistical data linking crew size to safety. Yet 13 states relying primarily on anecdotal evidence have enacted laws mandating 2-person crews, with a list expected to grow owing to union labor lobbying. While these state laws do not currently affect Class 1s with collective bargaining agreements, for now 2-person crews, many CBAs are ripe for renegotiation. The more immediate threat of state law mandates is to the economic health of the nation's 600-plus Class 2s and Class 3 short lines. The American Shortline and Regional Railroad Association estimates 400 small railroads now operate some trains with engineer only in the cab, with 100 not using dedicated ground support, conductor in a following truck, or voice electronics or remote control. Requiring small railroads to hire a second crew member absent compelling safety justifications would illogically erode. Whoever wrote this doesn't know what they're doing. Can't even read it. Forcing small railroads to hire redundant employees risks discouraging future capital investment. In the past, rehabilitated thousands of railroads of dilapidated track jettisoned by Class 1s. Basically what they're saying is that they force the small railroads to have 2 or more people. They'll put them out of business. That's basically what they're saying. And you notice who's supporting this. A 2-crew member mandate's moving through Congress right now. Indifferent to that.
Okay, see, 1 man in the cab. All right. Argument for a second man. Who's going to look at the other side of the train going down the tracks?
That's true.
Who's going to look at all the monitors in front of him while he's going down the tracks and might miss a signal? Oh, who's going to be talking on the radio when he's involved with something?
They should put these smart guys in the engine and let them do the job.
Yep.
And then come back and give the report.
Yep. Well, I mean, small crew size on short line railroads is nothing new. Before it was Relic and the Fox Trolley Museum, that was Aurora, Elgin, and Fox River Railroad. It was a 1-man operation. There was a whole bunch of those across the country. The guy would go down every day, fire up the engine, get the coal cars, take them over to the state hospital, return the empties. That's what he did day in and day out. Until state hospital converted to gas and they put him out of business. By that time, Relic was there and Relic became Fox Valley. So there was a lot of short lines that ran with one or sometimes they bring in a part-timer to do stuff where it was very busy. They bring in somebody to help. So that's nothing new. The whole thing is, it's a empty fight. It's a phony fight. It's a fake fight. It depends on the railroad. The longer they are, a lot of the short lines do have a 2-man crew. I was looking at Waco's thing, they're hiring conductors all over the place, which means they're running 2-man crews.
Yeah.
So, and their average except for a few lines, most of the WATCO company lines are about 100 miles in length in the average. So they are running with two-man crews. So it's an empty argument. The thing is, you got the National Transportation Safety Board and FRA saying, get by with a half a person, no problem. Basically. So it's kind of funny. You got the government on one hand saying you need a two-man crew, but in the other part of the government saying, no, you don't need a two-man crew.
And basically,
That's what's happening.
No, it's your
that's
it's your Gen X generation. All they can think about is this money, money, money. So you don't need that other man there. Hello. We got you.
I got two more left here. This is the one I was talking about. Chicago, St. Louis, missing ingredients. How long would the state of Illinois pretend that it has built a true HRS, high-speed rail, by naming what actually is higher speed rail, Illinois high-speed rail? Question mark. When you allow state politicians, bureaucrats, and their consultants to run the show, all you get after almost 20 years and approximately $2 billion is a 15-minute reduction in Amtrak current Chicago-St. Louis corridor schedule time. Regrettably, federal politicians and bureaucrats have been consistently oblivious regarding Illinois, just as they were after the promise in 2000 how the new Acela would cut running time between New York and Boston, but only marginally improve its schedule despite eliminating the change in New Haven between electric and diesel locomotives. Let me go on. Gets better. This is actually a commentary. Indeed, just the lack of any significant time difference for Acela, reviewing the new endpoint Lincoln service schedules identifies that only 3 out of the 8 trips on the Chicago-St. Louis corridor operate under 5 hours. Just by 14 minutes southbound and 5 minutes northbound. Interesting, in 1964, Official Railway Guide identified the fastest train on the XGM&O route, the Abraham Lincoln, running 5 hours, 10 minutes in both directions on jointed rail with numerous grade crossings without PTC. How does such a fact truly question how much progress has been achieved in nearly 60 years at $2 billion cost? State bureaucrats elected to significantly increase running time by diverting trains off the UP onto Norfolk Southern at Springfield, Illinois, to serve a new depot in an urban renewal effort. That the depot is no longer conveniently located on the XGMO line through downtown Springfield, offering a quick walk to the central business district, is glossed over. Instead, Illinois spent millions to initially repair the current Springfield depot on 3rd Street, then spent $135 million for an urban renewal depot project on 10th Street. For reasons unknown, the state elected to ignore how UP resolved the 2006 similar issue in downtown Reno, Nevada, by dropping the tracks for passenger freight into a trench, which eliminated multiple grade crossings. More importantly, whatever happened to the state's plan for Amtrak's Lincoln service to be rerouted off the currently congested CN route between Chicago Union Station and Joliet to eliminate delays? The first flyover was to take HSR from its exit at Chicago Union Station to Metro Rock Island District, coming out of parallel LaSalle Street Station, down the Metro line to before Joliet, to where another flyover was planned to direct the HRS onto the UP route, XGMO, to St. Louis. Also unanswered is a major issue. How safely can Amtrak service run fast over numerous angled grade crossings on the suburban line through many communities? A significant point ignored by state and federal politicians and apparently oblivious to state bureaucrats is to even acknowledge how the key missing ingredient remains the lack of train frequency, despite higher speeds and improved infrastructure. Making an infrastructure investment by state and federal agency to merely increase speed will never pay off if it's held at the same minimum current schedule as afforded by the state. Instead, this route should have, as Amtrak practices in the Northeast Corridor, frequent service not dependent upon limited state funding. Also missing is building volume by operating run-through schedules from Chicago suburbs to St. Louis, and among Midwest corridors, to eliminate changing trains in Chicago. Actually, these beneficial concepts were proven viable in the early 70s by an eager team of Amtrak management led by McKinney and the late Jim McKellen, who initiated a run-through Milwaukee-St. Louis service via Chicago suburban stops such as Glenville, Illinois. Today, the challenge is how to get the state DOT to think out of the box to support multi-state corridors, even partial service among corridors, Normal, Illinois, Ann Arbor, Michigan. Are California and North Carolina the only states that to understand the correlation of frequency and regional corridors to built volume? Sums it all up. And the final story is a good one. The Chessie Cat is back. You got a picture of it, yeah. ES44AH number 1973 is in the Chessie system theme. It is the second CSX Transportation Heritage Scheme locomotive to roll out of CSX Waycross, Georgia shops.
2/3 done.
Yep.
This has got to be the worst historic paint job ever.
Well, that's the second one. First one was B&O, and that didn't look too well either.
Yeah, it did.
Oh, it looks kind of nice when they run it with their passenger train.
Yeah, it looks real nice.
But they're real slow at getting their heritage units out the door.
Yeah, of course they are.
All right, I'm
That's
done.
good.
Go for it, Brian.
Yeah.
Hi, Ron.
Go for it, Brian. Give us some good news.
Oh, you want good news? For Ron Smallman.
It's his bookie.
No. A trolley has been saved. A PCC. The terrible Steelers. PAT's tribute to the terrible.
They are working. Don't stop.
You can hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead and
Can
say
we have
something.
this one?
1 minute. Go ahead. Say something into it. We'll make sure we can hear it.
I didn't hear nothing.
All right, try that one.
How's this one?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
Hang on. Later.
Hang on.
Talk into that one. I'm going to watch the monitor.
This one?
Yeah.
Nothing, nothing, nothing.
Uh-huh.
What's the end on the end one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
the end one.
Tell them to move one over this way.
Come to this one.
Move one over.
Okay, well, I'm moving one over.
But take your headset off.
This one reaches.
Yeah, try that one.
How about this? There we go.
There you
Yeah.
There you go.
go. I was watching the monitor back there.
I can hear you.
Welcome to the party.
Yeah, welcome to the party.
Where's the cake?
But yeah, their terrible trolley, they had given it away, and they went and found it and took it back.
Which trolley?
It's going into the Pennsylvania Trolley Museum in Washington, PA. And they're going to repaint it. The terrible
Oh, that one.
trolley.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, the ones that Bradshaw helped bring in. And,
Is that all those rainbow colors they painted them all in?
oh, they did that during the 70s.
Yeah.
too.
That particular model, you could ride. You could ride one of those in Kenosha.
Yep.
Yep.
And they came from Philly.
Yeah.
Yeah, found that one out.
Most of the
But-
ones in Kenosha came from Toronto, and then they brought that one from Philly. Yep.
All right. Got a lot of good stuff. Thank you. You helped.
It's very
You helped fill the time.
It was very interesting.
And just remember, sheep eat more than goats.
That is true. That is true.
See, they make them laugh. Watch this.
Well, I'd like to talk to you about a book I got.
Oh yeah, let's see what you got.
Got this little book. One of our visitors came in on Monday, and went home with his mom. He's a rail fan. He's like 6 years old, and took pictures of the garden, Botanic Garden. And the big thing that was going on was the roadside attractions is one of the things. We're showing half of the collection now. Like we have a security guard when you come walking in. He only stands 8 foot tall. We know him as the Jolly Green Giant. They got that. And this kid really liked it. And I mean, he's sitting there and he's writing about how he visited the Botanic Garden and everything. And his mom came in with him on Thursday. Finished. She printed it up on one of her printing machines and all. And he's showing the pictures of the ones that he likes. And we got the story from him. In fact, he did visit up in Minneapolis visiting relatives, and he saw the spoon in the cherry, which is in front of the art museum.
Right.
Yeah, pass around, let you guys look at it.
But there's no fork in the road.
That is correct. But yeah, I mean, that is so neat. Here he is, and he had this story, and he's telling her, he dictated it to her, and she typed it up and all.
Cool.
And
Future rail fan.
You need to make a deal with Mom. Get copies of that and hand them out to every visitor.
it would be nice.
That would be a good idea.
Well, I was saying, we get one of those TV moments. Get one of those,
Get WGN out there.
Yeah.
I mean, you get.
Or is it
I mean, that is so
get
neat.
Miss in the morning. She's a real hoot.
Oh, Anna Delaval?
Yeah, Anna Delaval.
And then we had he wrote. They told us that he wrote another book. Apparently, it's a book about all the railroads that are not running anymore.
Oh, there you go.
Really?
Got a future
Yes.
historian on our hands.
And
This is a 6-year-old.
Yeah,
Oh my God!
you should see him, hear him talking about diesels and stuff. I mean, I'm going, man, this makes my job worth it here. I ain't
It kind
kidding
of
you.
blew you away.
Yeah,
That is neat. That is very neat.
yes.
That a 6-year-old would. And his mother helped him, of course. I have no problem with that.
But yeah, he dictated the whole story to her, exactly what he wanted. And she wrote it up, and
Says that right here. It's fun to see an engine that's no longer in use. His words. He says, I like this engine because it's really unusual shape. It also used to run where Metro Line runs now. It's fun to see an old train like this that isn't used anymore. Says it right there.
Boy, this kid is kind of.
oh yeah,
Show it to John.
yeah. The things we see and hear at the Chicago Botanic Garden.
Well, that makes your day like that. to come back
It made our day. It always makes our day when he comes in, the way his enthusiasm is.
Oh, he comes all the time?
Yeah,
Really?
yes. And it is so cool.
That's
He loves
good.
it when we change the engines, or some of us bring some locomotives from home to run the with train, just to switch out. And he sits there and he studies it. And it's really, really neat.
That is.
We said we got to get an internship for him.
Yeah, no kidding.
Ah,
Does he know where IRM is?
yes, he does.
I'm sure he does.
Yes, he does.
That's good. Because, I was watching, I get the, you got on Facebook, you get those clickbait things.
Yeah.
So one of them was 50 hobbies that are worthless. That's the title. Okay, let me see what the 50, and they go through the usual 50 things that, stamp collecting and collecting Morgan silver dollars, and trains came up. Because, well, it's a useless hobby. And I'm like thinking, depends on your point of view if it's a useless hobby. I looked at this list as, here's all the collectible stuff 10 years from today, because everybody's going to see this list and throw their stuff out. The people who keep it are suddenly going to have something valuable.
Yeah.
Because they were talking about Funko dolls, Cabbage Patch dolls, Beanie Babies, and so on. And I'm like, here's all the stuff that, okay, you're calling this a useless hobby. So you people, the marginal people who are collecting this stuff, well, if I'm not going to get any money for this stuff, I'm going to get rid of it now. So into the Goodwill bin it goes. They throw it away or whatever they do with it. And 10 years from today, somebody's go, oh, look, Beanie Baby. I can get $2,000 for it because nobody else has it, and you can't get them anymore.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was
Same
like,
with the trains.
okay, when the movie came out, Polar Express, for the first time since 1955, Lionel was the must-have toy that Christmas season.
Yes.
And they didn't make enough sets.
Yep.
But I got one of them. I got one. I knew.
What was that other movie that was the Ice Princess or something like that?
Oh, the Frozen.
Yeah. Well, no, it had a train in it. Because McDonald's had that set that you can get for the kids' toys. I think it was McDonald's. Some fast food had the set. I got 2 of them.
You'll have to bring that to show and tell.
Yes.
As soon as I find it. I'm right now cleaning up. I just found stuff I didn't know I had. I was going through some box and, oh, look at this, a list of people I used to work with. Oh, look at this. Here's my certificate
You don't
for
need
my
that
IT.
group of people. What are you saving that for?
Well, I don't know why I even have the list. That's the first thing. But then I found some old Milwaukee Road stuff when Milwaukee Road still ran the commuter service. I found some of the timetables and stuff. Apparently, before it was Metro, I was riding it when it was Milwaukee Road. So I had some time down. Oh, look, timetables. Cool.
But again, what do you save and what do you throw away?
Well, that's it. It's
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
can't collect everything. You could try.
It's amazing what
Yep.
some people have. I mean, we think we have a lot, but when you see somebody, that they go to and it's got a big room of practically everything.
Some doctor loved G-scale.
Mm-hmm.
And he collected and purchased all sorts of G-scale, the full sets,
Mm-hmm.
donated them to IRM.
Oh, you're kidding.
He had,
Oh man.
we brought in 2 big 12-foot trucks of his stuff already to IRM, and he's still got another storage container that's got to come out there.
Really.
None of these were even open. They were
Oh.
just, he bought them, collected them, and he stored them in a storage
And I
container.
bet you somebody's been looking for some of that stuff.
Oh, yeah,
So he's got complete sets
yeah.
from all the different manufacturers.
Well, this is
I
all,
would love to see his Lionel collection.
no, this is all just G-scale.
No.
Yeah.
Lionel made G.
Okay.
Oh, they.
Oh man, yeah.
I've got 5 of their locomotives.
It's all up at the hobby shop that they built over at IRM. Now, we don't have a G-scale layout yet, but there's talk of putting one outside between a couple of the buildings, but things change.
Well, that's because, maybe you don't want to keep bringing a club in to set up their layout then.
Well, that's what they're talking about, because when they have the Thomas, they have the big tent over there.
Yeah, we've got I know, I was there this year.
Where were you?
Running trains.
I was there too. How come I didn't see you?
Did you
You
pay
didn't
your,
come. You didn't come see me. I
Did
was
you-
in the hobby shop.
You didn't pay your fare to get on.
See that guy? See that? See how he treats me? He hides when I walk in by him, then he doesn't come and see me. I was there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just
I
was.
love that layout that you guys had. You know,
I just called up the video cameras. That was about as close as I wanted to be there for Thomas the Tank Day.
I thought that was a Kenosha layout.
Yeah, I belong to the Kenosha Club. Besides the Chicago Club.
he doesn't know how to say no,
I know.
and he spreads himself so
Hey,
thin.
it gets me
shut up.
out of the house.
Seriously, you should have came in by the hobby shop.
I should have.
I would have showed you a collection you would not believe. And we've got them all along the walls on top right now. We've got
Ooh.
the full Coca-Cola set, the full Campbell set. What's the other one?
Yeah,
Yeah.
lately they've been doing the Napa, Santa Fe.
We even got a Z gauge in there. I tell everybody, it comes with a magnifying glass. That's the smallest gauge.
You don't.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Okay.
No,
Nope. T scale is smaller.
no, you got quad T.
Well, we don't have it. We've only got Z.
Yeah, but the quad
There's
T.
a smaller one?
There, yeah, magnetic wheels.
No. There's one in between. There's T scale,
So
which
the
is 1 over
store boxes
450.
all over the place.
The one you're talking
Yeah.
about is 1 over 750.
The G skill, yeah.
But there's a there's a T scale.
We had one guy.
You can buy all kinds
tell
of
you
stuff
off the
for
air.
it too.
I won't put it on here.
That's okay.
Oh yeah.
What else you got, Brian?
Well,
Watching the clock here.
Oh yeah, we're looking at the clock and
It's quarter after.
yeah. I have a new version of the John Henry story. Found it. One of the gals in the club. Remember Carol? She was Dave's friend.
Kind of.
Well, they got a Illinois Trivia Illustrated, and they took out all the railroad pages. And it has some great stuff. And I just lost the page. But when I was sitting there, I just happened to look down and talk about John Henry.
They had a map on the
And
page.
apparently, they did some more looking into the legend. We've seen it. How many versions of it? Okay, well, John Henry was a steel driver, a man who hammers steel into rock to bore holes for explosives. When the steam drill was invented, he was offended and challenged it to a race, man against machine. For 35 minutes, see, it wasn't all day like a lot of the legends say. But he raced for 2 hours, or for 35 minutes. The Negro with two 20-pound hammers in each, one in each hand, swung them down, steel driving them. When the contest was over, Henry, who worked for the C&O, had drilled 2 holes, each 7 feet deep, and the steam drill had 1 hole at 9 feet. Now, that's what some of the stories do end up with. It steam drill never got over 9 feet. According to the legend, the effort supposedly to have killed John Henry as he died from a stroke later that evening. Now, if you want to keep talking legends, what was the biggest railroad in the world?
Pennsylvania, wasn't it?
A gentleman by the name of Paul Bunyan had a brother named Cal. Built the biggest railroad. Each rail tie was made from a giant redwood tree. Boulders were used for ballast. Rivets for the engine boiler were 24 inches in diameter, and the boiler makers drove them in place by firing cannons at them. The engine was so large that the fireman's scoop held 2 tons of coal. The gigantic train could hold 700 huge cars at a time, On the first run, the friction burned up the rails, and the train went so fast it defied the laws of gravity and flew off into outer space and got lost forever.
It's a good way to wrap it up.
Yes.
It went away.
It went away.
It went that away. We getting the signal to quit?
Our train is coming into the station. I want to thank you for listening to our program, and we will return next month.
Train station?
Yeah, to Chicago Junction and your wonderful world of trains. So I say goodnight to my partners on the panel,
Good night.
Ron, Doug, and Ron. And you have a pleasant evening.
You have been listening to Chicago Junction on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on Wednesday, August the 9th, year 2023. Chicago Junction was is produced and directed by John DeVita, and a special thanks to executive producer of Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network, Mr. John Shikanda. This broadcast was pre-recorded on Wednesday, August the 9th, the year 2023. Until next time, friends, be safe and thanks for listening.